Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
I think one of the most misunderstood aspects of this Cleveland Browns offseason is what's going on with the Cleveland Browns quarterback room. Because when you hear people talk about this nationally, when you hear people talk about this locally, the main thought process is that this quarterback competition is going to be some four-way battle for the starting spot to be the Browns quarterback this year. I don't think that's how this is going to be set up at all. I don't think that the Browns are going to make a determination in camp and decide to roll with that for the rest of the season. I find that very unlikely. And I don't think that this quarterback battle is truly a four-way competition in the way that it's been marketed. Now, part of the reason, and it's important to understand this so that you can have your eyes open for other situations that could be similar to this. But part of the reason that people have been so hell-bent on calling this a four-way competition is because a four-way competition has more intrigue. A competition to where it is likely that one of the rookies wins, whether it be Dylan Gabriel or especially Shedeur Sanders, is a lot easier to draw interest about articles, about everything else about the team, right? That's a more exciting way to frame what's going on with the Browns quarterback room. And I think that's why it's been framed so much like that by most people, because they're trying to maximize interest in the Cleveland Browns instead of actually like doing their best to talk about what's actually going on. And you can tell that this is the case because while a lot of people will present the quarterback position as if it is a four-way battle, if you really dig down and you really ask a bunch of follow-up questions to any of these beat reporters or any of these people who are saying it's a four-way competition, they get down to basically saying it's between Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco, right? It's just more entertaining, maybe more exciting for the people themselves. I'm not saying they're coming in here and lying on purpose, but it is a more exciting way to look at the quarterback room, which is as this four-way competition. I don't think that's the case. What I think the Browns quarterback room is going to be dynamic, right? It's not just going to be they're going to make a decision at their training camp, and whatever decision they make in training camp, they're going to stick with. This is going to change based on what they see. There is no amount of training camp play that any of these quarterbacks can do that can prevent them from being eventually benched during the season. What I mean by that is Joe Flacco can look amazing in training camp, but if he looks bad during the regular season, he can be benched, right? Same thing is true with Kenny Pickett. Same thing is true with Dylan Gabriel. Same thing is true with Shedeur Sanders. The Browns don't have the idea of walking out of this training camp with a defined 17-game starters. Maybe they have the hope that somebody can be that, but I don't think they are so bought into a hope that somebody can be that they're only going to operate as if that's the only possibility, right? So winning this job out of camp is not a permanent victory for whoever wins it. Winning this job out of camp is a temporary victory, right? Keeping the job is very much a thing for whoever does it, whether it be Joe Flacco by default because nobody takes the job, whether it be Kenny Pickett because he does take the job in training camp, whether it be Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel. Now, I think those two, Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel, if they were to win the job, would certainly have a longer leash than a Joe Flacco or a Kenny Pickett, given that these guys are on rookie deals. They're younger and there's more inherent upside with these guys. They're going to have more patience for the ups and downs and more of an understanding for why they're having ups and downs, given that they're going to be rookies. But that doesn't change the fact that it would still be a temporary victory. And I think that's how a lot of people are looking at the quarterback room, as this four-way battle to determine the champion of the quarterbacks room, right? The starter of the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, and whoever is that starter is going to be the starter for the rest of the year. That's just not going to happen, right? It might not be that relevant who ends up being the starter at the beginning of the year. I mean, I remember before the 2007 season, there was a quarterback battle between a guy named Charlie Fry and Derek Anderson. Charlie Fry won the quarterback competition, put up a stinker against Pittsburgh in week 1, got traded, shipped to Seattle, and Derek Anderson started the rest of the year. We are in a fluid place at the quarterback position, which means there is no definite starter no matter what. Now, let's get back to this four-way competition thing at quarterback, right? Because I don't think that's the most accurate way to present this. Are the Browns leaving the door open for one of these rookies to take the quarterback job? I think that is true. But I think there is a big difference between leaving the door open for one of these quarterbacks and actually having them compete for the job. I don't think the Browns are going to split up first team reps evenly amongst 4 guys, right? I think the way that first team reps are going to go is most of the time you're going to get a little bit from Joe Flacco, a lot of first team reps from Kenny Pickett, and then most days you get nothing but second and third team reps from the rookies, maybe the occasional first team rep for one of the rookies in a practice, but it's not going to be super consistent and it's not going to be split evenly amongst all 4 of them. I don't think that's how the Browns are operating. I think the Browns are aware that there's going to be a lot of intrigue in Shedeur Sanders. I know Shedeur Sanders fans have brought up that, well, the fan base is going to want Shedeur Sanders to play. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, right? The fan base is going to want Shedeur Sanders to play, but I'm gonna be honest with you, that don't really mean that much, right? Like it means that Shedeur will play eventually this year, but fan pressure is not going to force the Browns to start Shedeur Sanders week 1. I mean, there was immense fan pressure for the Browns to start Johnny Manziel week 1 in 2014. It did not happen until the later part of the season for obvious reasons, and that was a coaching staff that did not have was not as entrenched as Kevin Stefanski is right now. So I don't think they really feel the pressure, right? I think people talk about Shedeur and there's these 2 different ideas. There is the pressure that people on the outside are putting on Shedeur. There's the pressure that people might want the Browns to do outside the Browns building. And then there's the pressure of what's going on in the building. And I don't think that pressure is significant. I don't think Jimmy Haslam is forcing the Browns to play Shedeur. I know some people have that conspiracy theory. That just doesn't make any sense once you actually think about it more than 10 seconds, right? With the Browns really, if Jimmy Haslam was really this gung-ho about Shedeur Sanders, why in the world would they have waited until he fell to the 5th round to take him? They would have at least taken him in the 2nd when they had 2 second-round picks if this were a Jimmy Haslam forced it situation. And if it's like the Browns coaching staff forced this situation, like I think this was a mutual conversation amongst everybody, like, hey, Shedeur's still here. We got everybody on our board. Let's just take the guy and see what happens, right? But anyways, like, I just don't see a way where anything outside of Shedeur being pretty much Dak Prescott to who else had? Oh, Russell Wilson, right? Like if he has that kind of a preseason and he is straight up undeniable, yeah, he'll start week 1. I don't know how likely that is. It doesn't seem very likely simply because that does not happen very often in the NFL where a day 3 pick steps up and takes the job. I mean, hell, it doesn't even happen that often for 2nd-round picks. Sometimes even 1st-round picks don't even do that early in their career. So wherever you place Shedeur on your prospect chart, wherever you thought he was grade-wise, it still would be rare for him to step up in preseason and training camp and be able to take the job off rip, right? Like that's just not where it's likely to happen. It could happen. It's not impossible, but it's not very likely. So that's what I mean. They're going to leave the door open for that, right? If somebody blows them away at the quarterback position and it's not what they had planned, I promise you the Browns will pivot and play that guy. That's not going to be a problem for them. They want somebody to be able to start a healthy amount of games this season. They know the writing's on the wall with Joe Flacco. And also with Kenny Pickett, like, yeah, if he has a good season, at least you could play him the whole year. But let's be real, Kenny Pickett's going to be in a situation where he's going to be a free agent next year, so you'll probably prefer it be one of these rookies. One of these rookies looks like they could be a starting level quarterback. They will play them. There's no doubt about it, whether it's Shador or Dylan Gabriel, they will play them. But more than likely, this competition is going to come down to Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. And the reason I wanted to make this video and point this out is so that we can look back at this at the end of the training camp period, if it is Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett that takes a starting job, and understand that this is what it always was, right? I think there's a great opportunity here for people to try to swing the narrative one way or the other, and I think there's already been a great deal of that going on with this Shador situation. But the truth is, this competition is likely coming down between Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. I don't think the Browns are going to cut any of the rookies. I know some people have that. I don't think they're going to do that. That makes no sense to me. But if we're just looking at this and what makes sense, it's going to come down to Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. And we're going to see a ton of Kenny Pickett in preseason. We're going to see a ton of Kenny Pickett in training camp. Unless Kenny Pickett looks like absolute Duke in the first couple of weeks of training camp, that's probably who we're going to see the most of with the first team, because that's the person that the Browns have the most need to evaluate in a hurry. Dylan Gabriel's evaluation can happen over this year, over next year, maybe even the year after that. Shador Sanders' evaluation can happen over this year, over next year, maybe the year after that. Got a lot of time on that rookie deal. There's really no need to rush. But Kenny Pickett's evaluation has to be done during this training camp, right? Because you have to make the decision, do you want this dude to play quarterback for you? Because he's only really useful for you if he's starting at quarterback for you right now. That's the only use that Kenny Pickett has right now for the Browns, right? Shador Sanders has use for this team outside of that. Dylan Gabriel has use for this team outside of that because they're guys on cheap rookie deals for the next 4 seasons. Kenny Pickett does not have that, right? Joe Flacco, maybe there's some use for him as a veteran backup mentor for the rest of the guys in the room. But if he's not starting for you, again, there's a question of like, what's really the value there? And are you just getting in the way of other people? We're probably going to have some kind of battle between those two. Whoever wins that battle probably stays on the team. Whoever loses that battle probably gets cut. But that's really what this battle is. It's not a 4-way competition. It's a 2-way battle that, hey, look, if somebody just shocks you, they can take over the competition because you're not really having your heart set on any one of these options, right? So it's going to be a true competition, but the competition isn't going to be what a lot of people, I think, want it to be. And I think it is better for these rookie quarterbacks to not start right away unless they prove that they are so much more ready than we think they are right now, because that first 6 weeks is a tough gauntlet. And I would hate to see a talented quarterback get ruined because you played them too early. And there's really no reason to have to play them early because you got guys you could throw out there that you might be able to win a couple of games with if you play them early. Say what you want about Kenny Pickett, and I've said a lot. The one thing that's true with Kenny is that teams have been able to win games with Kenny Pickett. Tough games, competitive games. Teams have been able to win games with Kenny Pickett. The same can be said with what Joe Flacco is at this point of his career. No, he's not a franchise quarterback anymore, but you can win games in the short term with Joe Flacco. So if you're talking about getting through those first 6 weeks, those two, if you have enough around them, can do what you need them to do, right? We've seen it literally in Cleveland with Joe Flacco, and we've seen it playing against Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett. He's not an amazing quarterback. He's not fantastic, but you can certainly win games with Kenny Pickett. He's done that. He's established that before. You can put the blame, you can give somebody else the credit, but that's just the truth. Him as quarterback, they've been able to win games with. And this is coming from somebody who's not a Kenny Pickett supporter in the slightest, right? Like, I am anti-Kenny Pickett, but you do have to give him his credit there. He's been able to win games throughout his career. That all being said, I think the best way to look at this quarterback competition is just to evaluate who these guys are going up against in that vacuum, right? If Shedeur is looking amazing versus that second team, third team, we don't have to obsess over how many first team reps he's going to get this offseason, right? There's going to be plenty of time in Shedeur's career for him to get first team reps if he proves that he is a starting caliber quarterback. The same is true for Dylan Gabriel. There's really no need to hyper obsess over this, because the real battle right now is not for who's going to be the franchise quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. The battle going on right now is who's going to play those first 6 weeks, right? And that's going to be between Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco, more than likely. Now, if both those guys are so bad and these rookies are so good, then all of a sudden that changes. But I don't really think, I know some people have been throwing in like, oh, Dylan Gabriel's actually in the competition. I don't think he's more in the competition to start week 1 than Shedeur is, because the Browns seem to place a lot of value in his college experience. You can value that college experience however you value it, right? I'm in the middle on it. Like, I get why 5 years of FBS football experience versus 2. Like, I get why that's valuable to a lot of people. And that seems to be valuable to a lot of the scouts I talk to. Me personally, I don't think it really matters as much as people make it out to, but hey, some people think it matters a lot, right? That being said, the Browns are one of those people who thinks that matters a lot. Like, I don't know if I'm right or wrong on valuing that or not. Like, I might be wrong on it, but they seem to value that a lot. That's something that they're going to give him the edge up over Sanders on. And he clearly has an edge up over Sanders right now in the Browns' mind, because they drafted him before they drafted Sanders. They could have drafted Shedeur Sanders at pick 93. They didn't. They took Dylan Gabriel. So he's clearly, in the coaching staff's mind, more preferable to start right away than Shedeur, or more preferable to play for whatever reason. They prefer Dylan to Shedeur at this point. Now, that doesn't mean Shedeur can't outplay Dylan to be more preferred than Dylan Gabriel. And that doesn't mean that Dylan can't lose favor by playing poorly. Those are definitely on the table. A third-round pick is certainly not nothing, but it's not a concrete commitment to starting this guy and trying to make this guy a franchise quarterback. It's a flyer at the end of the day. So we'll see what happens with the quarterback position. But understand, the rookie quarterback parts of it, the stuff that we're going to see in the second to fourth quarter of these preseason games, these aren't going to be things that determine more than likely what the Browns do week 1, more than what they're going to be. They're going to be things that help the Browns determine what they want to do after the bye week. That's just my opinion. I think we're not going to see these rookie quarterbacks till much later in the season, because that's kind of how the Browns want to roll right now, right? They want the veteran quarterback. They don't want to play these rookies super early. And even if they do have to play a rookie, it's probably going to be Dylan before it would be Shedeur Sanders. Now, we'll see how camp shakes out. Hopefully, we can have a lot of surprises at the quarterback position, positive surprises at the quarterback position, and this can flip the entire view of it right on its head. But if you're asking me right before camp starts, July 22nd, 2025, how I feel about this quarterback room and what I think the Browns' plans are, that's what I think. I think right now they're trying to figure out, do we want to start Kenny Pickett week 1 or do we want to start Joe Flacco? They'll give these guys chances to start throughout the year if they earn it. And if one of these guys proves not to be starting caliber, which if you look at the names we're talking about, very likely that that's going to happen. And they're going to move on from there. But I think this is a dynamic quarterback room. Things are going to change over weeks, time. I don't expect anything to be static about this quarterback room and definite about this quarterback room, in my opinion. I think if they can find something static about it, then yeah, that's a huge success for the Cleveland Browns. But more than likely, we're going to end the season saying, hey, we saw a little bit of Shador. We saw a little bit of Dylan Gabriel. We're probably going to be leaning towards, if the Browns have a pick that can get them a quarterback, drafting a quarterback. But a lot of shit can change between now and the end of the season. So nothing's really set in stone here. Hell, Shador could play so well that we're not even thinking about drafting a quarterback. Or Dylan could play so well, and he could be the next Brock Purdy, where we're not thinking about quarterback. You know, it's possible. It's just not something I'm willing to predict right now. But we'll see what happens. Keep an open mind with camp and understand that you will eventually get to see the guy that you want to see start on this team, because nothing is going to be permanent about the quarterback position after camp, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you really buy that this is truly a four-way competition? Or do you think that this is more of a two-man battle with the door being left open for other people to jump in, right? If they have the opportunity and earn it, right? That's kind of where I'm at. And that's kind of how I view it. And I guess that's why I'm not as low as some people who truly think this is a four-way competition. Because if they were splitting up first team reps 4 ways, that's wacky world, right? They shouldn't do that. It should be a split between Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, occasionally one of the rookies at practice, but more than likely you're going to see these guys mainly practice against second, third team units. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.